you don't look like you've been to a BDSM convention after your workout, did you really train? That's what I have to ask you. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Today we'll be hitting a posterior focus session as always, but I'm really excited because my photography is back, so you no longer have to put up with ghetto kind of amateur videos. But yeah, today we'll be hitting glutes and hams together, another session. I'm not going to fucking change it for YouTube. I'm just going to keep training the same thing. We're just going to have a chat and hang out together. So I'm going to show you my warm-up routine as well. I've actually changed it recently. We've got some back first, so I am going to chuck in a few upper body warm-ups just to like warm up my rotator cuffs and get everything moving nicely. And then I'm also going to warm up for glutes and hams. So, I mean, you should definitely be warming up if you are going quite heavy in your sets, which you should be. So take your time warming up. Definitely do some warm-up sets to the exercise too, but like warm-ups and activations are going to be always very individual to you and what you need. For example, if you sit at a desk and you want to grow your glutes, you may need some extra time, mobilizing your hip flexors if they're really tight, because otherwise you won't get full hip extension of your hip thrust, little things like that. So first I'm going to go into a bit of core activation. I'm going to do some dead bugs. I just ate a bagel beforehand, so I'm feeling like a blow-tato. But I actually had really good energy yesterday from changing my pre-workout food. And instead of potatoes, I went for like a bagel, a muffin bagel thing. And I had so much more energy with training. Sometimes it can be good to just change out your pre-workout foods. See how I'm shaking? It's my shit core strength. Oh, okay. So normally I do 10 of those. So 1 rep is there and back on each side. And I try not to go all the way down and to like hyperextend my spine. That's why you'll see I only go to there and I remain kind of crunched in with my belly button touching my spine and the back touching the floor. Because I'm only trying to activate my transverse abdominis, but I'm not trying to really like use my erectors and hyperextend. So honestly, like if I'm training more posterior, more like glutes and hams, I'll always add in like a hip flexor stretch at the start, because I'm going to be practicing mostly like hip extension work. But if I'm doing more quads, I'll do my regular warm-ups, but I'll also maybe add in some ankle mobility, because I know that my ankles, I don't have great ankle mobility and definitely need that for things like leg press and pendulums to be able to drive through your heel. Honestly, something I've been struggling with this week, I've been doing great my cardio, but I'd say the biggest struggle I've had this week has been with body image. And I think I alluded to it on my story on Instagram yesterday, but like just feeling like a little bit like I look a different way, and then I see myself in the mirror and I'm just like, oh fuck, I've got so far to go. But so yeah, I was feeling a bit down about how I looked yesterday, and an old self-sabotage habit, like thought process I used to have kicked in, and it was like, what's even the point of following your diet today? Like you look like crap. And then I was like, talk to myself, and I was like, no, we're not doing that. We're going to the gym, going to the sauna, and we're letting go of it. Just fucking follow the process, because if you give in to that negative thought pattern, it's just going to perpetuate that cycle of feeling crap about yourself. So, and it's not always reality. The way you see yourself isn't how everyone else sees you. I think once you, like if you've been quite lean before or in a different size, you always have that as your reference point, but other people don't have that as their reference point. So the next one I'm doing is a bit of a hip mobility warm-up, and I've only recently introduced this one in, but I found that since I started doing it, I've been able to get a lot more mobility in my hips when I do like abduction work, and actually can get a greater glute contraction. So I'm just kind of rolling forwards and backwards. Ouch. I don't think I've done this since I did gymnastics in grade 3. So we are no longer doing the cutting phase. We moved into the builds, and it's week 1 of the builds. And I could not be happier to be stronger. Like, I'm so fucking strong this week. It's amazing. You feel so great when you exit an aggressive mini cut and in a controlled way. And you start bumping up your carbs, and you get like strong as fuck. So yeah, I'm super happy. I weighed in at a new low this week, lower than when I was in my mini cut, funnily enough. I think my body is just like sucking up the glycogen, like it's thirsty as fuck. And then I'm doing a few of these ones. I'm honestly not 100% sure what these ones are called. I just call them a bit of internal rotation work. So this is going to help to mobilize the glutes and like see how all of it's not really static stretching. It's more kind of dynamic mobility work. And this is going to be very individual to like what you need as well. Like in the winter, I do tend to spend a lot more time warming up. I know it sounds stupid, but like I just feel a lot stiffer in the winter. I'll still do warm-ups in the summer, but not as rigorous. For the last one, I'm going to do a Cossack squat. I'll show you. So I'm just grabbing a plate like that. So this really helps to warm up your adductors. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add in some upper body mobility work. Yeah. So we're going to do the big lock 3, which I think I've showed you before, but we'll go through it. So hands out to the side. We're going to create external rotation from the shoulders, lifting up the shoulders, driving our thumbs to the sky. But do not do that. Do not do that at all. We want to use the rotator cuff. And I plant my forehead on the ground to disengage the traps a bit more. And do that for 15 reps. Oh my God, this is so fucking heavy. Yeah, I normally just use 1 kilo, but we're missing. And then 15, flipped over. So we're always trying to create external rotation from the shoulder. See how weak my rotator cuffs are? Oh my God. Something else you've got to consider is if you're doing like RDLs and leg exercises, you have to consider how close they are to your back days. Because if you've got a really heavy RDL the day before and then you train back the next day, you're still using those back muscles in the back session. Like you're still using them for RDLs. So they're not going to be completely recovered. So I did RDLs like 2 days ago, but I'm still feeling quite sore in my back. So maybe you want to place like shoulders right after you do, a posterior focused hamstring day or something. So now I'm just doing some dumbbell external rotations. And yes, we went blonde. I'm no longer Team Brown anymore. I hated it. So glad to be a blonde now. So I'm just doing 15 of these. Honestly, I'm not going to lie, I feel really cringe like filming in the middle of the gym, but I just don't care anymore because I know that my vision is to help people, through these videos. And anyone that's ever, I think, commented like nasty shit, I haven't wanted to be like them in any single way. Like, how often do people that you actually want to be like or look like comment nasty stuff in your posts? It's the jealous haters, right? Last one, I promise. Want to make sure we're all warmed up. So I'm just doing a little bit of band pull aparts. You can also use a broom for this, or like I do this after the shower every single night. When my muscles are nice and warm, I'll grab a towel and I'll actually perform I'll grab the towel like that and I'll stretch my pecs with that, because otherwise I find if I've been sitting at a desk all day, I look like that. And then if you are very internally rotated, when you try and do back movements, they're not going to be as efficient. when you try and do shoulder presses, it's going to be like dangerous and not really targeting the right muscles. So I'm just doing like 10 to 15 of these. All right, done. So now, firstly, we're going to go into a lat pullover machine. Let's go. Felt like my shoulder was going to pop out of the socket at the top. It's a little bit scary. But with this one, it can be really easy to like come down and want to crunch them with your abs. But you have to try and like mentally isolate your lats so that you're like, your ribs can stay elevated. But when you come down, make sure that you're just like thinking about depressing your shoulder and squeezing your elbows into your sides and just kind of isolating the lats instead of like crunching your entire body. So yeah, so I'm probably going to do a cross-body cable pull around today. Honestly, these ones have been the bane of my existence lately. I just have not been able to master them. My lats are the one area that I really struggle to grow and get a good mind-muscle connection with. So I just want to go a bit lighter and really practice like driving my shoulder down and into that iliac lat or costal lat. I don't know. I'm a fucking biomechanics wizard. So what I'm trying to do with this one is I'm actually, instead of facing it, I'm actually twisting my body away from it. So it gets a really nice like pull and stretch on the insertion of the lat. And then I lean away and in. And that feels like an incredibly nice stretch. Just remember that like if your goal is muscle growth, you really want to be maximizing the stretch position of any exercise. Like for example, if you're doing a bicep curl, you're spending all this time up here and you're going down to there, you're not really going to be doing yourself much good, because the eccentric phase, the stretching phase, is where we make all those little micro tears. That adaptation will occur. If you don't look like you've been through a BDSM convention after your workout, did you really train? That's what I have to ask you. I'm pretty sure my form on that set was hot garbage, but just ignore it. Oftentimes what we think we're doing is totally different to what we're actually doing. So that's why I like to film my training on camera. So don't take my form as God's word. It's such a process of like having a look at your form, comparing it to people that actually know their shit, and sending it to your coach, and then redoing your form, looking it back, comparing it, trying to master it every time. Rarely will someone straight off the bat be perfect at their form. And it actually takes a long time to develop that, the skill of being super aware of your body. And that's only a skill that people that are quite advanced have, and you can definitely achieve, but it does take some time of just being super in tune of like your body, the mind muscle connection, and what it's doing through different phases of the exercise. Does anyone else have like 500,000 playlists they've created on SoundCloud for every single mood? I think I'm like the only person that uses SoundCloud. Everyone else uses Spotify. But literally, I will make a massive playlist and I'll get sick of it within a couple of days, and then I'll create a whole new. So I just scroll and I've got like 200,000 fucking playlists. This song slaps harder than you done. It's so good, I'm addicted. Let me know what your jam is when you train for those heavy leg days. All right, so now we're moving into T-bar rows, my absolute favorite for a nice thick back. So yeah, just starting off with the warm-up set, then we're moving into our working set. I need to grab this. So I'm gonna chuck this underneath my feet because I'm a short ass, and if I don't, I won't have anything to stabilize myself into the ground. So I'm going to chuck that underneath. Perfect. I mean, you can also stand in the backrest, but I feel like it makes me go into a lot more lumbar extension. So I just feel like if I place my feet here, I can also lock myself up, where I belong. No, lock myself in with my adductors by gripping it with my thighs and then planting my feet into the ground. But if I go up here, I can't really do that. And when I drive up, it just puts like a lot of strain in my lower back. So that's why I prefer to kind of neutralize the spine, kill my spine, make the spine more neutral, and plant my feet down. I'm in a funny mood today. Something in the air, I think. Maybe the full moon's out. A tip I like to use with these ones is a bit of wedgie. When you drive up, a lot of people and I've noticed this from training clients in person, they'll have their head like this, like down, and they can only really get to here because their traps kind of inhibit them moving further back. But if you actually lift your head up, you can get a lot further back, a contraction in your back, as opposed to just like yoinking it and getting stuck there and primarily just using like the front of your shoulder and the biceps. We can actually get a lot more of a traction and get more rhomboid and mid trap. If we lift our chin up, it allows us to retract our shoulders a bit better. Sorry, not just the middle of the back, all the muscular, like the rear delts, blah, 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 but I'm not going to go into all of it. Doesn't matter. I also like to touch these out a little bit wider because I feel like they just get a little bit more width in your back instead of just the lats. There is such thing as too wide though. Like if they were so wide that you were doing that would be a no-winner. But you should ideally be able to like retract your shoulders, driving back with your shoulders and elbows. Most people as well, they think about like just kind of throwing the weight back and yoinking it like that, and that's not what I want to do. I want to imagine that when we're retracting, instead of pulling with your wrist, you're actually trying to drive back. Imagine that someone is holding each shoulder like that, and they're trying to pull your shoulders back, and then follow with the kind of the elbows, the shoulders and the elbows back. Or you can imagine that you're trying to crush a walnut between your shoulder blades. That works as well. So like I go back and then down as well, like back and down instead of like that. You get a lot more of a aesthetic juicy back by doing that than you will like chucking tons of weight on and just throwing it up. That actually went way better than I thought it would. I tried 30 kilos and I couldn't even get one. But to get 9.5 of 25, I'm pretty happy with that. I was just double checking because the amount of times I've put weight on the bar and I've done a set and be like, fuck yeah, I'm so strong today. And I accidentally didn't put on like a 10 kilo plate. It was like 70% less weight than I was supposed to do. I'm like, fuck. But today, that was pretty good. Like, I feel like my form was good. Like, it doesn't matter if you're lifting PB, if you're just chasing, this is what I used to do all the time, so I'm totally guilty of this. If you're constantly chasing PBs, but your form isn't where it needs to be, you're going to develop a very sloppy physique and probably injuries. Like, so with this one, if, for example, like I hit a new weight, great. It's sometimes good to really test that new weight, and you're not always going to have super dainty form. But if it's to the point where you're just kind of going up and up in weight and you're never taking it back and like refining your form if it gets sloppy, that is, going to be a problem. So with this one, my metric was like, am I fully squeezing my back? A lot of people that like quickly come up and they can't actually hold the weight. So before moving up to the next weight increment, I would make sure that I can actually hold that weight and retract and pretend like. Another thing is you could get someone to like place their finger, if you're training with a training partner, place their finger between the middle of your shoulder blades, squeeze their finger and hold it on each rep. And that is really going to help you to get a better kinesthetic touch and mind muscle connection with the exercise, and actually use your back instead of not using it. Because like at the end of the day, what's our goal? Is it to lift 100 kilos or to look like we lift 100 kilos? So moving on to a belted squat cable RDL. I love this variation instead of like I do like barbell and dumbbells, but this one you can load it a lot and it's very smooth, and you can get a lot more kind of glute and ham than some of the other. I just find it's very fucking user friendly, and I love it. Honestly, the last time I did this a week ago, I had not an anxiety attack, but I got real bad gym anxiety at like one of the busiest gyms around here. I tried to train at a new gym and I literally just had to leave like crying halfway through my workout because I just couldn't deal. It was just that, when you're like trying to find the piece of equipment, and this gym was probably like 5 times this one. I was just looking around, you can feel everyone staring, you're like, fuck. Feeling really strong today, which is great. I added some intra-carbs in, about 40 grams of cyclic dextrin, and they've really helped my workouts. So especially when you're going into a surplus or reverse dieting, the first place I would be looking to add those carbs is in the form of some kind of a intra-workout supplement. And that's going to help to budget those carbs towards muscle recovery, prevent breakdown, and give you more energy to be stronger during your training. So it's really a win-win for body comp. So remember the golden rule with warm-ups is to stimulate but not annihilate. So I'm doing a few warm-up sets, and like the heavier you go, and obviously especially if it's compounds, like you're going to need to do more warm-up sets, but you want to do just enough to stimulate the muscles and not to create any fatigue that could take away from your working set. So I'm literally just doing like, maybe 6 reps of no weight, 3 reps of 50% of the weight, and then 1 or 2 reps of like 70 or 80% of the weight. Great. Okay, so I'm doing a glute focused RDL, which means feet wider, hips going back as far as they can instead of like bring my hips up to the sky with a really extended knee. Dead. Definitely quite happy with that. More times than not in my YouTube vids, it's a compilation of me not hitting the weights I wanted to. But today I'm actually doing well. It's all those extra carbs, especially adding in the intra workout helped, but I was pretty happy with my form on these ones. They've been a pain point for quite a while. Like my form just really needed some work, and I think a lot of it came down to core strength and body awareness. So after training a little bit with my partner, he made me a bit more aware of like points I wasn't doing as well with this, like pulling with my back, and I myself decided to add some core work in, and it's massively helped. Not just from an aesthetic standpoint, but if your core strength is really weak, you may have a tendency to pull with your erectors, to use your erectors a bit more and not like brace as well and keep everything tight. So I was getting a lot of erector pain on this, but I wasn't driving with my hips as effectively. And so strengthening my core, not just dead bugs before the workout, but adding in, you know, a few rope crunches and machine crunches post-workout, they've helped to create more strength there so I can drive with my hips more than just like pulling my back. So we are done with those. I'm actually really happy with how they turned out today in terms of form and how they felt, and also hit like a new weight and actually really got a nice stretch in the glutes. Random side note, but this is how my brain works. Yesterday I was at the hairdresser's getting my hair done for the first time in like a whole year, and I started feeling like these feelings of just comparing myself to other girls. Like they were very put together, very feminine, had their nails done, like carried themselves with grace, and I couldn't help but like comparing myself to them. And I think we all at some point or another like compare ourselves to other people, and I was like, oh my god, they've got their shit together, they're great. And then I was like, wait a minute, you don't know anything about these people. Like you can't possibly compare how they look on the outside to your downfalls. And like I feel like a bit all over the place because of my ADHD, and like we compare, you know, other people on the outside to our shortcomings and shit. And immediately I was able to like talk myself out of that. And I think you got to be your own mindset coach sometimes. It can be really hard, but like just remember that you know nothing about the person. You might have more charisma or be more relatable, and they might like hate their lives. Like you really know nothing. So I think we're only using a very false sense of reality, and you're only looking from one dimension. There's many dimensions of a person, and if you're just comparing, you know, their life on the outside of what they put on socials, you really have no fucking idea of reference to compare yourself to that. Is that just like totally out of the blue? All right, so next we're moving into, I always say all right, so next. Now we've got a machine glute bridge or a glute drive machine. I will not use a glute drive machine unless it's this brand, which is, I don't even know. I think, what brand is this? It's the same brand as I think it's Life Fitness, I don't know. Some glute machines are like honestly garbage. Some of them feel really nice, but you just have to like gauge it depending on what feels good for you. So with these, I'm really thinking about driving my knees out, planting with my heels into the ground, and not going super low. So I'm only going low enough before my knees start to like come in. So you kind of get to this point where see how the knees start like rocking forward. Then we start using like a little bit too much quad. So I kind of just go down until just before they start coming down and then come back up. And that way we get more glute than kind of quad involved. And then at the top, I'm thinking about scooping up my tailbone like it's an ice cream scoop and really crunching in. Because when you're going like that, you're not getting as great as a glute contraction, and then you're actually like hyperextending through your back, which can hurt your back and use a little bit more erector. So I like to keep it crunched in like that, and then think about stapling your rib cage to your hips. I feel like crap. I'm just not getting enough hip extension. So when that's the case, I think I let my... It's really easy, especially with something like a hip thrust, to let your ego take over and to want to keep getting higher and higher weights, even though you're not getting hip extension. But it's important to realize that we're doing this exercise because it loads the glutes in the contracted position. So we want as much hip extension as possible. And so if you're just doing these at like 500 kilos, how much glute growth are you actually going to get out of that? So in this case, I need to lighten the weight and really focus on my hip extension. And I think I can probably contract a little bit more. I might even do a set of dead bugs beforehand to activate my core so I can brace a bit more. And when you brace, it ties your hips in. So you can get a lot more hip extension without like extending through your back. We had to try it. Praying to the gym gods that this is a good set. Note to self, do not put quad days right before glute days. It's a terrible idea. I thought I learned. So it makes a lot more sense to put your glute and ham days before your quad days because, case in point, if you're doing a hip thrust, like my quads have the worst DOMs and they're giving out before my glutes are. I cannot go any further. And like imagine if you're doing a seated ham curl or a lying ham curl, your quads are going to be really sore. It makes a lot more sense to have your posterior day before your anterior day. Fuck, that's annoying, but comes with the territory of being a fuckhead and making mistakes. So I'm really excited because we're moving into a cable kickback, but not just any basic bitch cable kickback. This is a different variation I've been absolutely obsessed with because honestly, between you and me, I fucking hate cable kickbacks because they're really finicky and really tricky. They require a lot of like awareness to actually be using your glutes in the correct way and not just like your back. So I really love this variation. I recently discovered it. Shout out to Coach Olivia O'Neid. She's got an incredible variation. You they're like a cross body variation. You step over and they really target the glute med effectively. So you step away from the cable at like a 45-degree angle. and they just feel nicer than any cable kickback I've ever tried. So they may look retarded when I do them, but we'll try. We'll try our best. If you are struggling to master these, I definitely recommend starting with a lighter weight and then building up until you feel confident with them. So I'm placing my foot 45 degrees out from the cable and then standing kind of front on, and then I'm kicking out 45 degrees, getting a full stretch, kicking back. But what I've actually been doing is, if you can get yourself a cable that's like a small one like this, you can actually hold on to either side for more stability. And I really like this if you go up to a heavy load, it's so much more stable. I love that variation so much. Honestly, the last time I did these, like for the first time a week ago, my glute med, it was sorer than it has been in like 2 years, literally, because it gives such a great stimulus. Like, I just felt like a lot of the abduction work I was doing just wasn't really working for me. I was getting frustrated with like seated and the standing ones. So I love these ones. My new absolute favorite. But the keys as well. Like, I noticed in the video I have a tendency to really bend my knee, and that's going to get more hamstring. So a tip is like to really, you can actually apply the cable a bit higher, and that's going to shorten the lever and potentially it could create more glute engagement than hamstring. So I like to cuff it about here instead of super low, and then I also really make sure to like extend my knee when I'm kicking back. Keep it straight instead of like bending, because more bending is going to use a bit more hamstring. So yeah, and then I take a big breath in here when I come in, hold my breath and brace my core as I kick back, and it really helps to contract without like extending through your lower back. This is the dead giveaway of a basic bitch right there. Nah, if you train hard, you're not a basic bitch. And just remember to breathe in here, brace your core, and really stay braced as you kick back. Because if you don't brace, you're going to be doing that.